live everywhere now. Hello, everybody. We are HP Holo / Edie Skye and Jacob Holo. We write action-packed worlds with a little bit of crazy in them. And today we are about to go back to one of those worlds. But first, you guys have been missing Dazzle. And so I think we need to put a little bit of Dazzle on this screen. So Jacob, you have duties. Dazzle has not been nearly as frequent on the show as Nova was because, frankly, Dazzle is chaos and tends to cause trouble in the background. And but we had to put him on. Dazzle is going through some stuff right now, but thankfully he is actually on the end of the stuff. Is he? He is just chilling. Dazzle, to put it politely, is slightly less manly now than he was a week and a half ago. But the stuffed animals in our house very much appreciate it because, oh my gosh. Anyway, is Dazzle going to be hanging out with you for this, Jacob, or are you going to take him back to the room? I can't tell if Jacob left his room or not. I guess he did. Well, anyway, so before we get to our main discussion today, first, hello, everyone in the chat. Second, I've got a few little bits of news just to go down. So let me get my little captions up here. So first off, we've got a whole bunch of things coming up. Our next release is going to be the THERMOPYLAE protocol from Baen Books, which Jacob wrote with David Weber. If you like signed books, we have actually teamed up with Fiction Addiction, which is one of our local bookstores, to offer signed pre-orders of the THERMOPYLAE protocol. And excuse me, I got a burp. If you go into the show notes, wherever you're watching, except on Twitter, because I can't do show notes there. So if you're on Twitter, go to YouTube or Facebook. But anyway, there's a link where you can order directly from them. David and Jacob will sign and personalize the book, and then it'll be shipped off to you. Also, we finally started doing our Facebook contests again. The May contest is up on our Facebook page at Holo Writing. And if I recall correctly, the question is inspired by Monster Girl Tamer, today's book. And it's basically if you could fall into a fantasy world, which fantasy world would you fall into? So answer that, and you'll be entered to win a signed book from us. So lots of opportunities for signed books today. Next little bit of news. Oh, I have to show off the picture for this one because I'm proud of it. So we had to cut our free comic book day signing short earlier this month. And I also had to do a restock. And so we are bringing back our free comic book day sale. And where's my share screen option? Okay, select window. Why is it not showing the right one? I was going to show my little graphic because it has Dazzle on it, but I guess I'm not. Anyway, if you go to, oh, hold it. What is my computer even doing? I have no idea what it's doing. Anyway, if you go to our website, our store at store.holowriting.com, all signed books are 25% off with the code FCBD. And yeah, actually, okay, I put that in my little captions. So yeah, if you enter that coupon code, you'll get 25% off all signed books through next Saturday. What other news do I have? Oh, book signing. If you're in the Greenville, South Carolina area, David and Jacob are doing a book signing for the THERMOPYLAE protocol at the Barnes & Noble on Haywood Road. So that address is all in the show notes as well. And then what else?
What day? What day is the signing?
Oh, yeah, I guess that is important. Saturday, June 15th. So we're going to be there from 12 to 4. So come on out and hang out. It's going to be a fun time. Also, a ton of videos coming up. Tomorrow, I am actually going to be discussing author marketing wherever you're watching this, because I've had a ton of authors ask me how I do what I do and figured I'd just do a stream about it. Coming up this Thursday, there's going to be another Authors Just Talk About, where I and a bunch of author pals talk specifically about friendship and networking amongst authors. And then on Saturday, next Saturday, I'm going to have a Q&A with Casey Moores on his next book, which is called No Fail, and it's book 2 in Bill Fawcett's Blood and Armor series. I don't think I actually have that event up yet, but it's going to happen. So I'll have it up after this. But anyway, now I think is a perfect time to start discussing our new book. So hold it. I've got a little window that will not disappear on my screen. What are you doing? Pardon me for a second. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to deal with it and hope it doesn't interfere with the rest of the show. So
what is going on with your computer?
I selected my share screen option is just being a little nuts right now. Oh wait, now it's allowing me to share stuff. Okay, here's the graphic I was so proud of. I gotta let it on the screen. Okay, so it's Dazzle's secret sale, but he's bad at keeping secrets. So yes, and there we go. I'm very proud of it because he's adorable and I love him. So there we go. But FCBD, 25% off all signed books on store.holowriting.com. Have at it. Feed our cat, please. So
we will feed Dazzle regardless.
Yes, we will feed him regardless. He gets too much food anyway. Okay. All right. Now we got a new book out. And this is one that people have been looking forward to, even if they don't realize they've been looking forward to it. So the title, Monster Girl Tamer. I power up with every monster girl I defeat. This one has a funny origin, then a complicated origin. The first one question that I get asked most about it by people who are familiar with my Edie Skye pen name is, so it's co-written by Edie Skye and H.P. Holo. How exactly does that work out? I love it. But so
you were like an amoeba, and then you split into two. And
man, I wish there could be two of me that split off like that. That'd be so convenient. But yeah. Oh, so we got people in the chats. Oh, J.R. Handley says finally made a live show. So welcome. I'm glad you made it. And Christopher Froeby says, hey, y'all. And that actually brings up something that I want to show off later because I'm gonna chat about it more because I want to get to the book. But you guys, Froeby made us a miniature version of the Titan Mage cover, and it's really badass. And I will fangirl over it later because Jacob wants me to get to the book stuff. But thank you, Froeby. It was wonderful, and we love it. And we're clearing out a space on the Warhammer cabinet so it can stand regally amidst all of Jacob's other miniatures. So I completely
it's going on the shelf next to Cosmos.
Yes,
that is a very high honor in this household to be placed next to Cosmos.
Yes,
from the Xenosaga series.
Fabulous. So anyway, so yeah, the origins of why it's a co-authored series. So a while back, while I was writing Titan Mage, I had a lot of people ask for a Monster Girl series. And I didn't have Titan Mage. We had loosely set it up so that all of the people in the series were human, or at most human with animal characteristics like cat ears, and like some of that is spoilery for those of you who haven't read Titan Mage. So just go read it. But there wasn't really a way for me to fit monster girls into the Titan Mage universe in a graceful way. However, on my H.P. Holo pen name several years before, I had written a series called Monster Punk Horizon, which was very much I got books over here. I've got so much chaos going on. I had an omnibus set out, and I don't even know where it went. I don't even know what I'm doing. Anyway, so I wrote a series called Monster Punk Horizon that was effectively kind of this weird hyperactive love letter to Pokemon, Digimon, Monster Hunter, all the monster hunting and collecting and befriending and all that stuff franchises I had ever enjoyed. And I had
also you and I were playing a lot of Capcom's Monster Hunter World.
Oh yeah, and it definitely those two characters, the two main characters in that series, are actually pretty much just pulled from our Monster Hunter games. One main character is my character, and the other is Jacob's character. And and we've made videos on those, so I will just refer you guys to those and say go watch them because they're fun. And right now there are only 3 books in that series, but I had planned several others, and one of them was in fact a harem book, not harem as it's written in the literary harem genre.
Harem parody.
Well, harem parody, but also it was meant to be more inspired by the early 2000s harem anime that was showing, say, on Toonami at the time, because you had Tenchi Muyo was one of my absolute favorite animes ever. And it's definitely a harem anime. I think is it considered the definitive one, like the one that kicked off the genre? I can't remember. But there was Tenchi Muyo, and then there was stuff like Love Hina, and they're very much harem, but harem, well, it's very different from even modern harem anime, but it's certainly very different from the book genre. But anyway, I wanted to write a novel that kind of paid homage to that, while also using monster girls, because monster girls just felt like a really natural addition to the monster punk universe, especially since there's a lot of parody or loving homage in monster punk. But the way we had structured that story, that particular one was only a standalone book. However, there were ways that we could restructure it to make it a complete series. And so we basically took that idea, Jacob and I talked it over. We shifted it to make it more harem appropriate, because one of the
inappropriate. Or inappropriate.
Or inappropriate. Well, I'm thinking more in terms of structure than content, but like in the style of harem novels that I write, the main characters are universally men who collect women, which meant I couldn't have Pix and Jazz as the main characters, and so that immediately necessitated a change. And so we've introduced a new character, even though the main characters from Monster Punk Horizon do make significant cameos and whatnot in the series. Well, most of them do. Some do not for plot reasons. But let's see here. My computer gave me another notification. Sorry, I got so much going on this computer screen. But so it had a complicated and interesting origin. And I was really looking forward to writing it, as much as I really, really want to get back to Titan Mage. And you can see the exact point in this book where I started really missing writing Titan Mage. And that is a whole other topic of conversation.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that.
We're going to get to that. But I was really looking forward to writing this too, because I've been wanting to get back to the Monster Punk Horizon universe. And it was really cool to be able to blend the universe I created as H.P. Holo with a harem sensibility. And so the ultimate reason why it's listed as a co-authored book is because Edie Skye is my pen name that denotes that there's smut in the book, like there's explicit stuff in it. And naturally, it had to be an Edie Skye book. But I also wanted to make it clear that it was set in a universe that I wrote as H.P. Holo, so that there was some connection there. And I used some similar graphic design and whatnot to connect them visually. And so that's ultimately why the two names are on there. And it makes for some fun convention discussions. And it's like, I'm really looking forward to the day when I get a review that is like, I'm really a big fan of Edie Skye, but this, I'm not sure, like, you can tell which parts this H.P. Holo wrote because they're not as good. Because every time there's a book collaboration, there's always a review like that, and I'm waiting for it. I am just excited for it whenever it happens. So let's see here. Oh, Froby says Evil Twin. Yes.
Which one is Evil Twin though?
Huh?
Which?
That's true. They both have their mischief about them, we shall say. I was totally going to do like a Gollum style thing where one of us was H.P. Holo, and then I like spin, and then there's Edie Skye, but I'm tired. And so we're not doing that today. So, yes, see, J.R. Hanley's in the comments says, I know none of your cultural references. I know nothing about anime or manga, but I've read classics. So sorry, this book. Well, I don't know. I think you don't necessarily have to understand the references in this book, but I do try to write stuff so that my Easter eggs are timeless, shall we say. But yeah. So if you are a fan of monster collecting stuff, you will find stuff to love in this book.
As your editor, there are times where I'll poke you and say you need to make the reference more obvious for regular people.
And see, then I'm the complete opposite, because I don't want the reference to be obvious. I want it to be something that's kind of only noticeable to super fans, because I don't want it to stand out. and just become really obnoxious because, well, you know how when you watch those movies and they're just pure fan service, and the fan service doesn't really do anything for the plot, but it's just there because the company is trying to just play on viewer emotions, kind of things. I don't want to do that. I want to be like classy about it. And
yeah,
so
there were a few places in the initial draft where you were like, oh, and this was totally like this very vague reference that I'm now going to make, that I'm just going to leave the reader hanging with it and hope that the reader understands what I'm saying. It's like, Heather, I think you need to make that a little clearer there.
So, at some point we should probably say what the book is about. The plot itself had some really fun origins. So the main character in this book is Axel Hunter Radcliffe, and he's from a family. It is there are plot reasons for it that are established in chapter 1, but he's from a family of chosen ones, and every generation someone in his family is selected as the chosen one by a magic weapon that they have. And everyone in his family, like, they grow up knowing that someone's going to be the chosen one, and so they train to be heroes. And so his 20th birthday happens, and his father extends what was it? I don't remember the arsenal, but what was it? It was a carbine, but I can't remember the numbers.
M4.
Yeah, there's a dramatic moment. He extends an M4 carbine to his son, and it transforms into a compound bow, I believe. And the fact that this carbine transformed, that the arsenal transformed, indicates that he is the chosen one of the family. So now it's time for the family talk, which is when
a very different talk than some other talks that happen.
But this is the point where Axel discovers that he's got to save the world from something. He doesn't know what. He's just got to find out what he's saving the world from on his own. The only thing in his family that has ever been consistent from chosen one to chosen one is that the chosen one has to assemble a quote unquote support staff to carry him through. And in his family,
which is where you termed the phrase, I've never heard this before, but I love it, tactical harem.
Tactical harem.
I love that, and that fits. Actually, that fits Titan Mage and Blood Knight as well. But he has to assemble his tactical harem and find out what he needs to save the world from, and then go save it.
Yep. And then he falls through a portal through the dazzling skies and ends up in this absurd fantasy world. And he's like, well, I did not expect the portal, but now I've got to deal with this.
I gotta say, I love how you wrote his father's reaction to his son just getting sucked right down this portal.
Oh yes,
and he's like, "Well, that happened faster than I expected." Then he just finishes his beer and goes back in and does the dishes.
We're talking about a guy like, okay, Axel, his father, I believe the way I describe his father's chosen one herodom is. World War III was in process when Byron Radcliffe went to war. World War III was no longer in progress, and there were elder gods involved. I mean, his dad is this implied badass, so it's like this is a family that is used to some weird stuff.
Yeah, he's just completely unfazed by his son just getting sucked into this portal.
Oh yeah. So when Axel arrived under the dazzling skies, he's played fantasy games, he's read harem novels, he's read lit RPG, he is equipped with all the knowledge he needs to start figuring out what to do in an obvious fantasy world. And so he goes and does his stuff, and soon after he shows up, weird monster girls start showing up. Now this is a setting where Monster Girl kind of has a different term. There are, when I designed Monster Punk Horizons world, I wanted it to be very broad. I wanted to be able to write any kind of story I wanted into it. It's actually kind of the way that the mangaka for One Piece designed his setting, because it's like, if I want to write this kind of story, oh, there's an island where I can do that over in this area I haven't described yet, kind of thing. And so the way I did that was to have But the thing that defines the setting of Monster Punk Horizon is it's the monstrous continent set under the dazzling skies, and the dazzling skies are so named because they sparkle. They look like they're sparkling with stars at all hours, but really these are portals, and these portals just drop all kinds of random stuff. So
and living things.
Living things, monsters, literal trash. Sometimes there's a whole economy around it. And so the population of the setting is incredibly varied. So we had to decide, like, what defines a monster girl in this setting, because technically the first girl he meets that joins his harem, she's basically, if to simplify her, she's basically a demon of a race known as the Demon Face. So she's got a cute little devil horns. She's a metalhead and all this stuff. And by the standards of, you know, his society, she would be considered a monster girl. But she's she's just a person. She's just a member of a different race here. So the actual quote unquote monster girls come about when this mysterious force appears and suddenly starts transforming the things they know as monsters in this setting into hot monster girl versions of themselves. And these are often a lot more powerful than the base monsters. And they wreak havoc. And so one of the questions to him, or one of the questions for Axel, becomes like, are these monster girls the things I've been summoned here to defeat? Like the thing I'm supposed to save the world from? Or are they the things I'm supposed to collect for my harem? But it's like, either way, we got to deal with them. So that's his conflict. And it was really fun to design it. First of all, I hate Chosen One stories. Like, it's a trope that I just find really, really boring. But one thing I'd established in Monster Punk Horizon is that the hunters under the dazzling skies also hate Chosen Ones, because they're very accustomed to getting these people who fall through the skies, and they think they're the hero in a story, and they go off into the jungle and start doing some crazy hero stuff, and sometimes they get eaten, which is really convenient. But other times they end up stirring up a lot of trouble that the hunters then have to deal with, and it's a whole thing.
This was like a really strange part of the plot that you were like very, very clear on, that you wanted it to be a chosen one. I'm like, why? You hate chosen ones. You've established that you hate chosen. You have an entire, you know, cultural thing going on in the Monster Punk setting that makes fun of chosen ones.
That's the thing, though. I wanted that conflict, and it shows up in funny ways. But another thing too is that I sometimes like to write tropes that I hate to see if I can make myself like them. And this happened most prominently in the last series in Titan Mage Rising. Because when you handed me the outline for Titan Mage Rising, it was a kidnapping story. I hate kidnapping stories. And so it was like, okay, how do I make this? How do I alter or tweak this story in a way that is still interesting to me? And it ended up being one of the best novels in the series. I think it's actually the one I'm most proud of from a technical standpoint. And so I kind of liked that challenge. But there are comments everywhere. We've got a little conversation going on down here. If I don't comment on them, it's not that I'm ignoring them. It's just that there's a lot here. So we got a new person here. Says, Atropia veteran says, I am hooked too, and it's your fault, JR. I should get the money I sent your podcast back so I can cover my credit card debt buying the Holo backlist. Oh, well, we're glad you're enjoying our stuff. And I also need to respond to your YouTube comments because I've seen them. I'm just buried in work right now. So, yeah, if you've sent me like an email or fan mail or anything, I have seen it. I've just got a pile, and I'm slowly responding to everything. J.R. Hanley says,
it's quite a pile.
It is. It says, damn, now I feel cheated that the U.S. Army did not give me a tactical harem. That's another book to write. Can you imagine the hijinks in a book like that, Jacob? Oh my gosh. And we have enough military people that we know where we could get some fun stories to apply to it. Oh my gosh. So let's see here. Okay, I've gotten down to, okay, we'll scroll down to stuff. So There are some differences other than the obvious between Monster Girl Tamer and between Monster Punk Horizon. One of them is that there are stats in this, and that has been an adventure. So
yeah, let's talk about the stats.
Okay. So when I first wrote Monster Punk Horizon, I hate stats. Whenever I read Lit RPG, I just skip all the stats. Like, I appreciate that there's a huge audience that really enjoys the stats, but I just do not care about them. And so I intentionally left them out of Monster Punk Horizon because I figured, there's got to be other Lit RPG readers who don't like stats or who hate them as much as I do. And then the most requested thing about Monster Punk Horizon, other than more books, became, where are the stats? Can we get some stats? And so we had to come up with a way I definitely wanted to put stats into the novel, even though I hate them. And so we had to come up with a way to fit stats in this universe that was clearly established as not having stats. And we can talk about the storytelling aspect of that first, because that was actually really fun. But there were other adventures involved in the stats. So I had nothing to do with the actual creation of the stats. Jacob is the engineer of the two of us. He makes spreadsheets for fun. And I just said, hey, my readers want stats. Do some stats for me.
And I did.
Yeah.
And so I created the stats for all your characters and the monsters and, equipment and there's stat progression for the main character. And then
mm-hmm.
You wrote some of the scenes in which you completely ignored the stats that I had created for you. So, like, for example, hold on. This is my part.
Okay.
So let me lay this all out here.
I'm gonna put me on the other side of the screen because I feel weird. Okay, there we go. Everything is balanced now.
All right. So like I set it up so that like 10. This is like sort of like an not exactly average, but sort of like heroic average. And it's like a baseline. And so then you have so I had I think the main character has a magic stat of 10, somewhere between 10 or 12. I'd have to see, I wrote it down in the spreadsheet so I wouldn't have to remember it. But anyway, whatever his magic stat is, his base magic.
I got none of these stats in my head, so I'm going to be useless.
So one of the characters that he goes up against, she initially had a magic stat of 6. So she was more of a physical, kind of bruiser character rather than a, like a mage. And so, I get the first draft of the action scenes, and there's just magic just flying everywhere, and I'm like, she's supposed to have a 6, and so what happened was. I took the scenes that Heather wrote, and I basically reverse engineered the stats from those scenes. Mm-hmm. So like in that case, it's like, okay, this is a bit much, and this completely changes the entire power progression curve that I've established for the series. So we're going to have to change that, but that's okay. We can do this. And so go into the stats. Okay, she has a 6. We're just going to put a 2 in front of that. So now she has a 26. Now the stats are accurate to what's going on in the scene because there was so much magic going on.
Oh yeah, so we should probably talk about the girls at some point because that's after all what everyone's reading for. So our cover girl here is actually really relevant to mention because she's the one who caused the problems, which is actually really on brand for her character. So
she caused problems in the story and outside the story.
Oh yes. So around the time we started conceptualizing this series, Goblin Girl covers were a huge thing in Harem. So I was like, we absolutely have to do a Goblin Girl cover. And I just love goblins. They're so fun. I love everything about them. And so her in the lore, she is a variant of a creature called a Dryantian Goblin, which is it's kind of this combination of a dryad and a goblin and a like really elegant Miyazaki creature that that has the ability to manipulate plants. And she, I lost my train of thought. Sorry, I got distracted by the cover. And she, in her monster form, I kind of picture her as this really regal version of what is it, the forest spirit from Princess Mononoke. Like she's just got this elegance about her. Monster Girl form though is chaos, and she is excellent fun chaos. She was easily the most fun character to write in this whole book. Like she is, there's honestly a reason why I use her with the cool sunglasses on for my Edie Skye author photo now. She's just all chaos all the time. And her thing is that she, she's monster based. She has her animal needs, and she is looking for
feral.
She's freaking feral, yeah, and she is looking for her wood lord. And obviously, it's a reference. It's a reference to her abilities and whatnot, but also there's some fun.
Yeah. I mean, you made me groan when I read that one.
Oh yeah, and she also she's not intending a pun. She's got the ability to manipulate wood, and it's wood and plants and whatnot. And so there came a point. And so there came a point in where I was writing the first battle scene with her, because she's also one of those where it's like, okay, you have to defeat me to earn me, kind of thing. And
and where did you go with it?
I wasn't certain how I wanted the battle scene to go, and at that time, for whatever reason, I was just really missing Titan Mage, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give the Goblin Girl a giant robot, and so she has a giant robot that she forms out of wood, and it's giant is it's kind of the same scale as Titan Mage.
It's the same size as the Titan.
2 stories tall. Yeah, she's roughly the size of the Titans, and so she can just make these things. And thus,
you see why we had to go from a 6 to a 26 with her magic stat there?
She was, in the original version, she was basically just supposed to fling a bunch of animated trees at him, but I did not want to do that. And so she's the sort where she gets really mad when she has to get out of her robot. She causes all sorts of chaos everywhere. And I absolutely love her. And then honestly, the giant robot stuff didn't end there. But we could talk about that when we get to the next girl, or one of the next girls. But yeah, Pepper is just absolutely feral. If you like the sort of wild and absolutely uncontrollable, insane Goblin Girl, she is your girl. But the first one,
but it also ties into the title of Tamer, where the main character, there is a kind of societal mentorship going on with the monster girls. And it's like, hey, this is how you correctly interact with society. No, stealing is bad. Murder is bad.
Murder is bad.
There's a whole discussion about
specific definitions for murder. That's one of Pepper's problems. She cannot understand the distinction between murder and hunting and all the other sorts of death, and it's a sticking point for her. But yeah, absolutely.
Which ends up with some absolutely hilarious exchanges.
Oh yeah, she was.
Where it's like, Pepper. Okay, so if it's got 4 legs and is delicious, that's hunting. But if it's got 2 legs, then that's murder. But what if it's got 2 legs, stands on 2 legs, and is delicious? Is that still murder?
Yes.
Like, yes, Pepper, that's still murder.
She's one of those characters too, where I love her, but I also kind of hate her, because I'm one of those where, like I've said before, my characters write themselves. And Pepper very much wrote herself more so than any of the other characters that I've written. She would not do what I wanted her to do in the story, because I actually,
trust me, I know as your editor.
Oh yeah. Well, also when I one of the biggest criticisms of Titan Mage was that it wasn't to some readers it wasn't as romantic as it could have been, which is a valid criticism. And so I wanted Monster Girl Tamer to have more romance in it. And there is definitely some with the first girl. Pepper is the second to show up, but Pepper was all animal all the time, and romance with her is it's very loosely defined. And so I could not get a romantic storyline out of this character. She wanted her woodlord, and that was all. And so I had to
but there's plenty of romance with the first girl and the third
Oh, yeah.
girl.
And let's talk
So
about the first girl.
why don't you talk about the first one?
So the first girl that you meet, he literally meets her like right as he lands. Her name is Kali, and she is the demon fae girl that I mentioned earlier. And she was a character I had already planned to feature in Monster Punk Horizon. She hadn't shown up yet in the series, but she was one that I had been working on. And she is one of the things I established about the demon fae in Monster Punk Horizon. They have this sort of absurd sword and sorcery, like dramatic, dark setting. And they live in a place called the Hell Pits. So, I mean, it's not going to be like a nice unicorns and butterflies kind of setting. But they are also really, really into card games, to the point where they will have wars over new releases. And that particular thing was directly inspired by around I was writing bits and pieces
of the rushes on Pokemon cards during the pandemic.
The pandemic era rushes on trading cards, and all the fights that started, and all the stories I heard from my friends who worked at department stores. Like there was. I mean,
it's at least a little bit more interesting than like having fights over toilet paper.
That's true, but yeah, and I was just that was the point where I was really getting back into card games, and the whole concept was just so amusing for me that I absolutely I wanted to create to have a race in this setting where that was their thing. And so they have these Conan the Barbarian style battles over cards. And so I wanted the series to have a heavy gaming element to it as well, because obviously it's a solid lit RPG. And it's very heavily influenced by games that I've played, but gaming also plays a major role inside the setting itself. And I want to say it was Monster Punk 3, we had characters who discussed, wanting to get into the trading card community and whatnot in their, just as they're figuring out what they're going to do under the dazzling skies. And so it felt really natural to use this character that I was already creating anyway, and have her be involved in card gaming, have her be a sort of nerd character that Axel could immediately relate to. And so he falls down through the sky. He sees, girl being chased by a monster, and it's like, well, I'm a hero, I know what to do. And he meets her, and she's just this hot demon girl in a trading card game t-shirt and booty shorts, and she is absolutely willing to help him figure out this world, because that's what they do. They're accustomed to having people fall through the sky and be completely confused. And he's concerned at first, because he's like, what kind of world have I fallen into? Is she one of the bad guys? Helping me out seems like the kind of thing that a bad guy would do immediately to trick me, but quickly finds out no. And she is Kali's a really fun character, because she's a metalhead. She's got her sort of dark, rough edges, but she's also a very sweet character, and I like that juxtaposition. So it's like she and Axel team up for hunting, and Axel doesn't have a place to live, so she just invites him to her apartment, until he finds a place to stay. And she cooks for him, shows him around, shows him card games, shows him other stuff. And it's a really, really sweet interaction. And I really enjoyed writing her character, because she's like, the world under the dazzling skies is nuts. Like, everything I write is nuts, but this series particularly is the one where I set fewer limits on what I can write, because it is just that crazy. And my brain turned off, sorry, and my throat is dry. And so Kali, thus, as sweet and stable and eager as she is, she sort of becomes this hinge around which Axel can focus his existence, getting used to this new world. So she's like this little place of calm in the storm, despite the fact
she's also his researcher.
Yeah.
So
each girl comes to serve a purpose. So as the first one that he meets, she's effectively the handler from Monster Hunter World, in that she helps him figure out, she introduces him to the world.
Sexy
she helps
demon
him,
fae handler.
Yeah, helps him research monsters and all this stuff. And she's really cool. I like her. I actually kind of wish I had commissioned a cover for her too. We'll get to that. But
she also has this like pragmatic side to her.
Yeah.
Where she finds out about his destiny and the tactical harem.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And so she's just like starts taking notes. It's like, okay, so what are your types? What kind of women do I need to be, looking out for to try to, introduce you to them?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's worried about this initially, and then when the moment he tells her that, she's like bringing out the notebook and like taking notes on all these things and asking him all these questions about how to define his harem. It's kind of, it's not what he expected, but it works out. And her armor was fun to design. That's a whole other scene. But yeah, the one thing I want to go further into in the next book is the armor, because the Pepper and Tomoe don't really have, they make their own stuff, so they don't really have Monster Hunter style armor, and so I want to get them some in the next book. And speaking of which, that is a great segue into our third monster girl, who I really want to put on the cover of book 3. Like, we currently have a different one who hasn't been introduced yet for book 3, but Tomoe. So one of the things that I got asked for a lot was a really buff muscle mommy character, and Tomoe is that character. So, and I think her character was what was interesting, because I think Jacob and I had two somewhat opposing pictures of the kind of character she was supposed to be.
No. I had a clear picture of what she was supposed to be. You didn't have a picture for a while, and you were like searching for a picture.
Okay, so
so you were like writing this character without a clear picture of what
there is some context here that needs to be established. Okay, so this book was supposed to take me 2 months to write. It took me 6, because I got the first bits with Axel and Kali written, and had a surgery scheduled, and so the surgery was anticipated, but it took me longer than expected to recover from it. And then around that same time, we had decided, what was it? We had decided that we wanted to try to release a book every 2 months or something. And at that time in the year, we were feeling super great. Like, heck yes, let's do this. But then my surgery recovery went long, and then you started having some chronic pain issues that really, like, you wrote the first 3 Blood Knight books, and then your chronic pain stuff hit you hard to the point where I don't think you've written anything since, right? No, and so we were going through various medical appointments trying to get to the bottom of this, my surgery recovery, my OCD doing what it does when we have disruptions like that. And my brain was, for some of this book, my brain was not in top form. And the thing about my OCD, and I've spoken a little bit about this before, it takes, like, when I wake up every morning, my brain I imagine there's an internet browser, there's like 20 tabs open, and all the tabs are playing music from different genres at the same time, and I can't find what ad or window they're coming from. That's kind of what it's like inside my head when I first wake up, and it takes some tremendous effort for me to get past that every morning. Like, it takes meditations and some real, like, attempts at concentration to do it, and some days it just doesn't work. And and I had a lot of days like that when I was writing, to a certain extent, Pepper's scenes, but especially Tomoe's scenes. And the frustrating thing about it is that when my brain is on, I can see story problems, like potential story problems, and solve them in 30 seconds, like flat. It's just no problem. It's like, oh, here's the obvious solution to this problem. When my brain is not on, it basically functions at the same level it did before I was diagnosed with OCD. Like, it's a dramatic difference. And I was going through a lot of that during that period, which was one of the reasons why Tomoe's character was so hard to come to me. Like, I had my outline, And Jacob intentionally writes simple, semi-vague outlines so that I have the freedom to fill in the character as I please. And my brain was just not filling in the character like I wanted it to, or like it would have if my brain was top tier. And we finally got it to work. But it took one of the ways that I know my scenes aren't working is that I tend to, when I start writing, I like to start in the morning and go all day until I've finished a chapter. If it takes me more than one day to write a chapter, that chapter is trash. Like it takes no amount of editing can make it good. And and there were a few chapters where I really, really struggled with them, and it took me time to get them to work. And some there was at least one where I ended up just starting and redoing the whole thing. But yeah, it's a weird little part of my process, but it's something that I really have to keep tabs on. But it's the reason why it took so long to write Monster Girl Tamer. I'm actually I'm so far behind. At this point I'm actually supposed to be halfway through Monster Girl Tamer 3 in terms of the schedule I had set for myself at the beginning of the year, and I have not even started 2 yet. So, but we are getting there. One of my goals this year has actually been to find ways to become more efficient in my writing, and I've already made some changes to my process that have gotten me several months worth of writing time back, but that's a discussion for another time. So yeah. So next girl, Tomoe. So Tomoe, when you first wrote her, she was Tomoe is effectively an Oni girl. And when you first conceptualized her, I think you were picturing like this sort of noble warrior, shrine maiden type of character, I think. And
I wouldn't say shrine maiden, but yeah, sort of a an honorable warrior.
Yeah. And there is still some of that in Tomoe, but I knew I wanted to write the big buff muscle mommy. I don't think you would conceptualize her as that.
No.
But
I understand that a lot of guys like that type, particularly based off of the comments that you've received. But
oh yeah,
yeah, I didn't write her like that. We're not right. Well, I mean, in terms of the background material that I provided, wrote for you, because I didn't do any of the actual writing in this one.
Yeah, this one was all me except for the outlines. But with her, I landed on the muscle mommy archetype, and it took me some chapters to figure her out. But once
which I then had to corral with the through editing.
Yeah, she got a giant robot too, you guys. Neither of them were supposed to have giant robots, but she got one.
I get to I'm going through the editing and I get to that scene and I'm like, what?
Yep.
There's
yeah, more stats.
I didn't put this in the outline. What?
She has the ability to manipulate Earth, and so she builds herself an Earth-based giant robot to fight against Pepper in her wood-based giant robot, and it's a fun scene. But once I had landed on the muscle mommy build, my favorite quote unquote genre of anime is like the shonen anime or seinen anime. I love the big bold, like just guys beating on each other and screaming and having just grand adventures kind of anime. And so I basically decided that Tomoe was kind of going to be the girl equivalent of a shonen anime hero. She's basically Goku, but a hot girl in the way she acts. And so she's always wanting to test her limits, to get stronger, and then she gets mad when she finds a limit because, oh my gosh, there's a limit. I can't do any better than this. And then she's always challenging everyone to fights, but she's happy about it. Like, she's not a butthole. And you actually had to tone me back on some things too, because I'm also a huge fan of Baki. Like, it's an insane and not always all that good show, but I love the expressions. And there were some points where Tomoe makes Baki faces. If you've ever seen anything from Baki, you have seen the iconic Baki faces. And Jacob cut out like 3 of them. He was like, she's supposed to be attractive. This is not attractive. This is not right for the genre. And so I managed to find ways to sneak like 2 in. But she's
Dawn.
She is just TOMOE is just this hot buff girl who is also this epitome of all the things I like about fighting anime. And she was very fun to write, but also she has this unexpected soft side. And certain parts of the world really started to work in my brain with her, because one of the things about the monster girls, they over the course of the story, they figure out that some outside force is causing these transformations, and they call this force the sexy wizard, because it's this wizard-like character that all the monster girls have had interaction with.
Because the people on the monstrous continent who live in your Monster Punk Horizon setting are bad at naming things.
Yeah, there's also another monster known as the Raging Buttlord, which I absolutely like. We had to put a Raging Buttlord girl in this series, because the way
Raging Butt Lady.
But yeah, the way I described the Raging Buttlord in the first series, like, it is so named because the rest of it is just this sort of saurian monster, but it is so named because it's really angry and it has this disturbingly attractively humanoid butt. And it's a major part of at least the first book. And when we were going through and planning the harem, I was like, the way I described this creature, there is no way we cannot have a hot raging butt lady in this series. We didn't do it in book 1 because there's already so much in book 1. There are certain things that I really wanted to put in book 1 from Monster Punk Horizon that I just didn't. Like Dragon Pig, for example, is a fan favorite character from the Monster Punk Horizon series. But at the end of book 2, especially, avoiding spoilers, he gets so powerful that if I put him in Monster Girl Tamer, I knew he was going to. There would be some way where he would overshadow the main character.
What have we discussed about the power progression of your characters sometimes in this setting?
It's a known issue. But anyway, getting back
to I had all that plotted out. I had his magic weapon, the arsenal. This is how it's going to get powered up. This is how he's going to get powered up. I've got all these stats laid out, and then Heather comes in and is just sort of like sliding across the table, just knocking everything this way and that. I'm like, all right, well that plan needs to be revised.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to say this earlier. If you guys would like to win a signed copy of Monster Girl Tamer and the Monster Punk Horizon Omnibus, I'm running a contest during this. The link is in the show notes for you to enter, but just fill out the form. I'll select a random winner at the end of all this, and then you get both. You don't have to read Monster Punk Horizon to understand Monster Girl Tamer, but there are some fun bits of overlap between them. Okay, so going back to talking
they both stand on their own, but I think that reading one and then the other results in a richer reading experience. But they do stand on their own just fine.
Like there are certain cameos that, if you're familiar with Monster Punk Horizon, when they show up in Monster Girl Tamer, it's like, oh, I know that person. But anyway, so the sexy wizard has been transforming monsters into monster girls for unknown reasons. And one of the elements of the transformation is that their physical change happens almost immediately, but their mental changes happen slowly. Like they gradually get this trickle of new information, so that when they're first changed, they still have mostly animalistic thoughts. But as the days go on, they get more they get more intelligent is the wrong word. More fills their head. And for Pepper does not care. This does not bother her at all. If whenever new thoughts enter her head and she doesn't care about them, she just ignores them. But TOMOE has some issues with it, because she's the kind of person who likes to feel competent, who likes to feel strong, but she keeps having these ideas enter her head and these concepts. She doesn't know where they're coming from necessarily, and she doesn't really know what to do with them because they're so complex. And so they make her feel unintelligent. She doesn't like feeling unintelligent, and she has some insecurity about it, despite being this like massive mountain of a woman who is otherwise just a force of nature. And it was really interesting to write her character like that. And I honestly wish I'd gotten to spend more time on her character, but by that point we were getting so close to release date that we needed to cut it off and say good enough and edit. But I'm looking forward to writing more of her in book 3 or book 2. And there's some fun stuff coming up.
Well, I mean, I think that, what you have there is satisfying for the story as it's structured right now. I mean, obviously, all these characters, will reappear in books 2 and 3, and there'll be growth and more fun scenes with them. And
oh yeah, and I'm pretty sure
that
when I continue Monster Punk Horizon, I'm pretty sure there's going to be some crossover too. So Pix and Jazz will be the main characters in Monster Punk Horizon books, but then Axel and at least one of the Monster Girls, I'm thinking, will probably make appearances too. So there's the thing that I really like about this series is that the characters butt heads, but they're ultimately all friendly with each other. And that is a really, really fun dynamic to write because it's so relaxing to have characters who, like, their conflicts are mostly interpersonal and low key. Their biggest conflicts are with the monsters that are trying to eat them, and I enjoy that. So, man, it's already 9 o'clock. Were there any other?
We got to wrap it up.
Yep. Were there any other things we wanted to talk about with this book? I can't remember. Well, it's on sale now. You can get signed copies at our shop.
I mean, you talked about all 3 of the girls, so
that's the important
thing.
So yeah, but yeah, books 2 and 3 are in the works. Our next release though is going to be the next Blood Night, so you have that to look forward to. Yeah, I guess let's start wrapping up, and thank you everyone for watching. Let's talk about what we've been reading, watching, playing, all that stuff. So let's see, watching wise, we've been watching. We finished
Babylon 5.
Babylon 5, and Jacob says I'm watching season 5 on my own, so I haven't finished it yet. But I'm going to be on, it's not a lie, but I'm actually going to be recording a podcast about Babylon 5 on, I want to say it's Blasters and Blades coming up this week. So you will hear my thoughts on Babylon 5 in the near future on their podcast. Go listen to them. They're awesome. Anyway. So in terms of, I'm finally catching up on Bridgerton because season 3 has been all over my news feed and I haven't even watched season 2 yet. And I'm like 3 episodes in and I want to strangle Colin because he's so oblivious. But Jacob has not watched Bridgerton with me. So I told him, I got him to watch Pride and Prejudice, 2 different versions of Pride and Prejudice, you guys. And that was an accomplishment. And you liked them. And then I tried describing Bridgerton as Pride and Prejudice with ass. And he was Regency'd out. So even the ass did not work. So you have not watched Bridgerton.
I OD'd on Regency.
It only took 2 things. I can't even get him to watch Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, you guys. Like,
no way. I couldn't
even.
I cringed just watching the trailer. I couldn't watch the whole trailer. I'm like, there's no way I can survive this movie.
This
looks terrible.
You'll have to do it. This can be one of my. I'm calling it for like an anniversary gift. Unlike our, 20th anniversary.
Are you calling one of those in?
Yeah, it's gonna be one of those.
All right.
Yeah, our 20th anniversary. Okay, that's going to be the thing we watch. All right, I'm holding you to it. Everyone watching, you're holding Jacob to it. This is the biggest audience we've ever had. So all of you,
you can use it. You don't have to wait for like the 20th anniversary, our 20th anniversty. You can just use like the next anniversary.
I could. So it's
yeah.
Find something bigger for the 20th then. 12th. Our 12th anniversary is not that far off, Jacob.
I know.
You're just trying to get it out of the way. Rip the Band-Aid off. I know what you're doing. What you been reading, Jacob? You been reading anything? I can't remember.
I have been rereading the Omniverse.
Oh yeah.
So I've just getting prepped for certain things that David Weber, Tom Pope, Marisa Wolf, and I will be working on in the Omniverse. Lots and lots of unannounced projects there that I can't really. There's some stuff there that I can talk about a bit, and some that I just can't. So,
we got a good observation here. Froeby says, "So Jacob is Locke from book 3." Jacob is Locke's story in book 3. For those who have not read Titan Mage Dragon, book 3 has a huge Regency element to it, or Regency inspired element to it. but it's not what you think. Basically, Locke gets into a situation where he's like, oh my gosh, this is the kind of world that all of my previous girlfriends have made me read about. And he and Bexley spend the entire novel basically trying to escape a Regency romance setup. And Locke is just, he's not having it.
So Titan Mage book 3,
oh no,
like 80,000 of those words can find their roots in the outline that I wrote for Heather. About 40,000 of them are it's just Regency stuff that she really wanted to add.
I really did. I fully admit, like, now that we've been we re-listened to Dragon on the way up to, I want to say, Fantasy, and having been in a car with that book for 8 hours, I now am fully ready to admit it was an indulgent book. And, oh my gosh, how long did the first spicy scene last? Oh my gosh, like, we were in a traffic jam and it just kept going. It's just, I didn't realize that scene was that long when I was writing it.
I think it must have been like 2 or 3 times the length of like the average spicy scene from like Blood Knight.
Yeah.
It went on and on. And
speaking of Froeby, I wanted to show this thing off more. Okay, so I showed it a little earlier. So Froeby paints miniatures and told us to watch our mail last week and surprised us with this wonderful thing of, I'm trying to center it. Yeah, there we go. So I got a little miniature diorama of the Titan Mage book 1 cover, and it is just, oh my gosh, it's so cool, you guys. It's getting kind of blurry close to the camera, but it's like, it's got terrain and everything. Little sky, and the back has the Titan Mage logo on it. Like, it's so cool, you guys. So I got to give Froeby some special credit because this thing is amazing.
Yeah, that is going on in our display curio cabinet in a basically, I think the top shelf, place of honor, right next to one of my Cosmos figures.
How long did that take you to paint, Froeby? In the comments, because that's some cool work. It's been sitting in our little kitchen where I can just marvel at it whenever I feel like not looking at my papers, and it's just so cool. So let's see. You're reading Honorverse. Did you finish your reading answer?
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much. I mean, besides, reading through our own stuff, editing it, which I've also been doing.
Froeby says months. It looks like it. It's a good paint job. And it's so detailed too. I love it so much. Yeah, as for me, so I've been reading, I got my pile here somewhere. So I've been re-listening to the War God Zone. No, not the War God Zone. I get all of the War God book titles mixed up. Oath of Swords, the first in David Weber's War God series, which I love. I've also recently read Tinker by Win Spencer, primarily because it was recommended to me. Basically, someone said, "Hey, it seems like the kind of book that your readers would enjoy," and it's one of those where it's got cool magic in it, cool magic system. The main characters are smart. There's a technological element. It's also super sexy, not necessarily explicit, but yeah. If you like my stuff, if you like the spicy stuff or the sexy stuff as much as the world building and magic stuff, you should totally check out Tinker by Win Spencer. Also, I've been trying to catch up on my manga, and I found. So I bought some stuff for my birthday. There is a One Piece volume that is Sanji themed, that is illustrated by the group that did Food Wars, which is one of my favorite things ever in all of anime and manga. So that has been my current read. It's super fun. And then another series that I never hear all that much about, but that I'm really addicted to, is Rooster Fighter. And I just got volume 2. And it's basically a pretty straightforward, like, you've got this stoic warrior fighting demons and looking for the demon that ate his sister or whatever, but he's a rooster. And it plays itself completely straight. Like, it is absolute, really detailed fighting manga style illustrations with just over the top, just serious faces and whatnot, but it's a rooster. And he's got himself a companion lady chicken, and there's all sorts of drama and whatnot, but it's my new favorite thing. Like, I'm honestly really astonished that I'm spending actual money to buy more of this series because I expected it to kind of be just a one-off kind of gag thing, but it's really good for what it is. So that's my thing now. What else? I'm reading something else, but I cannot remember what it was.
Should we talk about what we're playing?
Yes, what are we playing, Jacob?
Helldivers 2.
Yes. Oh, it's a 2? There's another one? Huh.
Yeah, it's the second one in the series.
Oh, cool. So, somehow
this one has sold significantly more than the first one.
Somehow I just completely missed the fact that it was a sequel. But yeah, so the thing, I'm really enjoying it myself, and we've been playing it with buddies and stuff. But the thing about Helldivers, well, the thing about shooter games in general, I am really, really terrible at shooter games. Like, my aim is bad, my timing is bad. I am not an asset to any multiplayer team, which is why I don't play them that often. But Helldivers shtick makes it so that failing is kind of part of the fun because there's so many hilarious ways to do it. And it makes it really fun for someone like me to play. And
so to give everyone an idea, who you may not be familiar with Helldivers, it's a 4-person shooter. So I was playing it earlier today, and it was a defend mission. So 4 of us were defending against these swarms of bugs coming at us. And so I was calling it an airstrike, and it was just carpet bombing in the area. And well, it carpet bombed one of my teammates, and he got really tilted at me. He got on the mic, and he's dropping these cluster bombs on us, blah 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 blah. And then I died. Bug came up to me and just drenched me with acid, so melted my guy. And so your extra lives get basically fired down to the surface in these drop pods. And I didn't even see him, but I landed right on top of him and killed his character. And he got even madder at me. And so, like, for the rest of the match, he's like setting me on fire, shooting me, just everything. And it's and he was, and you were playing, like, dude, it's friendly fire just happens in this game. That's why if you have 4 players, they give you 20 extra lives.
I like
you'll sometimes go through all of them.
Friendly fire happens a lot when I play. I need to post. Okay, so I recorded this, our very first mission, like the literal first thing we played with Helldivers 2. First off, it was kind of a disaster, a hilarious disaster. And so we stumbled through the entire thing, but somehow I have never encountered this since in the game. But we were on a planet that had a whole bunch of fire tornadoes. And so we've
been avoiding the fire tornado planets because
so we finished our mission, and we watched. I feel like the mission was one of those really long, like post the Super Earth flag ones, where it takes a million years and a lot of like dramatic inspiration.
Yeah, the poles going up and the anthems playing, and
so we finally accomplished. We've died a ton of times, and the mission is just about to finish. And then
we're all like looking up at the flag, waiting for it to deploy.
And like 5 different fire tornadoes converged.
All just rolled through the area, just setting everything on fire, killing us instantly.
Did we lose it? I can't remember.
No.
Okay.
No,
I'm gonna have to post that video though, because it was just it prime Helldivers experience. I love that game. I need to play it more with you guys. I've been playing that. I am slowly making my way toward the end of Final Fantasy 16. And I have to say that I like the first half of the game is one of my favorite Final Fantasy things ever. Like, I love the way the story is set up. I like the world and whatnot, but I'm just having to slog through the last bit because the final villain is just not interesting. Like, or the final 2 villains are not all that interesting to me. Like, it's funny because I've started taking this approach to video games where it's like, never underestimate the power of a hot person in a video game, because pretty much the only thing that is dragging me to the end of Final Fantasy 16 right now is looking at Clive. Like, I'm serious. I've got 2 more chapters to go, and it's like I don't really want to play these, but Clive is there. You've been playing Stellar Blade too. Speaking of
I have been playing
video
Stellar
games,
Blade.
so I have,
and it is a good game. The story is
nobody's playing this game for the story, Jacob.
well. It's, I mean, the big reveal, I think I had figured out from like the first trailer, and it turned out to be correct. And the characters they exist, but they're not terribly interesting. But the combat is pretty good. It's not of a type that I'm particularly a fan of. The kind of parrying, dodging. I guess From Software's Sekiro is probably one of the comparisons that comes to mind. I just the preciseness of some of the inputs, I'm just not terribly good at it.
I have not paid all that much attention to this game at all. Like even
but like I'll be playing it and you'll be walking by. And then you'll stop, and then you'll stop it, and you'll make some sort of comment. It's like, wow, that is a really distracting butt.
It really is. Like I have literally noticed nothing else in this game except the butts that are on screen. Like they're so well written.
Well, so like one of the things in this game is you're collecting outfits for Eve, for the main
and some of them have extra jiggle physics.
And so I'm like, okay, I just unlocked this outfit, put it on. Okay, it looks nice on her. It's not, at least initially, didn't look particularly pervy to me. Well, it has a skirt. This particular one, it has a skirt, and when Eve is running, she like really leans into it. And so as soon as I'm like started running through the the Great Desert, I think is the area that I was in, you can just see right up
detail there. I remember that scene.
It's like, oh yeah, there's the perviness. I was missing it.
Yep. We may be taking some ideas for harem girl costumes from this game, though. They're all really well designed costumes.
They are very well designed. They put a lot of thought into that. They should have put some additional of that thought perhaps into some of the area designs, because there's like there are a few areas that are really, really cool, that are interesting in sci-fi, but a lot of them are just sort of like these post-apocalyptic dumps. And it's like ruins, desert with ruins. It's a little bit samey. But the combat is good. I'm enjoying the action.
Devil May Cry 5. I have started playing Devil May Cry 5, and
I've been trying to get you to play this game for how many years?
You have not been trying to get me to play this game for how many years?
Like,
I watched you play it, but I was just I had a long period where I would just watch Jacob play video games and wasn't really interested in playing them myself. And I vaguely remember Devil May Cry 5, but I wasn't really paying that close attention to it because I think I was just drawing or something in the background. But I
kept showing you all the ridiculousness going on in it.
Yeah,
and you're just like, whatever.
Well, the thing is, at the time, I wasn't really all that into action games. I was more into like MMOs and games where I could just wander around and collect stuff. And that's not what Devil May Cry 5 is. But honestly, working on Blood Knight has made me want to play like a really badass urban fantasy. And I found Devil May Cry 5 for $10 in a PlayStation sale or something. And so I picked it up, and it's like, oh my gosh, you guys, it's really astonishing that I have not played this game before, because it's just so over the top. I love it so much. There's a scene where a character like revs his sword. It's just, and you get style, like literally named style points for how you kill things. It's just, Oh my gosh, I love it. I'm not that far in because I am terrible at it, but I really enjoy its style. Like I love the ridiculousness of it, and so I'm having a lot of fun with that.
Have you gotten any up to the triple S yet?
No, I am not performing admirably. I've gotten some D's, maybe. I got one B.
Okay.
I'm not even
Okay.
close to an S.
All right. Something to
But
work toward.
yes, it's good to have goals, and it's not going to be a high bar to jump for me, but it is a very fun game. I love it.
All right, we should probably be wrapping up here.
Yeah. So thank you everyone for joining us. This was fun. Had a lot of great comments going on. And in terms of other videos we're going to be doing, like I said, tomorrow I'm going to be talking author marketing. Not an incredibly exciting one for readers, but I always have a whole bunch of authors ask me like about the nitty gritty of how I do all my book marketing stuff. And so I will be talking about all those crazy fun details. And then I've got a few more coming up later this week, which you can see the event listed wherever you're watching now. And then we've got signings and all that stuff in the show notes. And there's a ton of stuff going on this week. But thank you again for watching, and we will see you whenever our next video is. So